Hello there again. It is me, DM or Dylan. I did not introduce myself properly in the last video, but hopefully I do that this time. If you're just stumbling across this video, welcome to our mine and my D&D group's weird little channel. So, this is a solo video again. I am doing a series I'm going to call Worldbuilding, where I go over the basics of how I either build a world, or in the case of what I'm doing starting here tonight, a continent, which is something I've already done twice with places called Cronon and Dravost, two previous continents I've made. Cronon was the epicenter of high magic, the end-all be-all of high fantasy, so to speak. And Dravost was much more of a religious fanatic's dream, an idealized land of religion and what it could be if forces like that intervened in meaningful ways, in large ways, in a fantasy setting at least. So it was a very idealized land that had recovered from a previous apocalypse that happened in my world, and was living well off for the most part. However, I am starting a new project tonight called Arkresh the Lost Desert. So, whereas Cronon was the high fantasy center of my world, and Dravost the religious center, this will be the center for the post-apocalyptic kind of setting. Now, why did I choose to go for post-apocalyptic? Well, of course, massive desert wastelands. Now, already so far as this goes, I have already rolled up the map, and how I will cover how I make a map as well. So, the easiest way I have ever found to make a map is to retrieve a large bag of dice, and to take out the dice, whichever, hopefully as all of them, if you have enough to do this. And if you don't, well, slight problem, but otherwise. So take out several sets if you have them. Label each type of dice. So I typically only roll a single d20. Well, depending on how many empires or kingdoms I want, I roll multiple, but for the sake of our Arkresh, I am only rolling a single d20. I only rolled a single d20, and that represents the capital or the largest settlement in a continent. D4s, which you'll want the most of, are fillers. These are meant to be natural environments, not rivers, but mountain ranges, lakes, mesas, giant natural effects of the world. You could also do rivers, but you'd have to think of the path for these. D6s I typically use as smaller settlements and larger natural things. D12s are ruins or relics of the old world. That is a part of the lore of my world. I'm sorry if that's a bit confusing. D10s, which is the last one I use frequently, are larger settlements or cities, but not the largest as the D20 is. And then you get all these sets, you roll them in your hand, and you cast them out on a piece of paper, and where they land is, then you draw an outline of your continent based on where they land, and from there you create names and such. Now, I have already rolled this map, as I said. I have not placed much of the cities or anything like that, but I've placed almost all of the natural occurrences. Almost. I will be going over some of the larger ones that I have already placed, and as well as some of the other ones I'm planning on placing. So, cutting over to the map. This is a great service. I use it all the time. Not sponsored, of course. Tiny little piece of shit YouTube channel. Yeah, enough time's passed. So these are a lot of some of the major things that have already been placed. There's still a lot I have to do. I want to do so. Our creche is a post-apocalyptic setting. That is the whole point, and it is leaning heavily on the wasteland effect of what is called of an event that occurred somewhere around here that Gallaghered the land, shattered it, and burned it to a crisp, leaving nothing but desert wastelands. So, we can go to our catalog of various stamps and effects. They have used the volcano already because that's meant to be the center of this continent and what's there. Vegetation is pretty much going to be a minimal thing. There will be caves, but that's for a later thing covering a different set. Stalagmites, obviously not a cave, so those won't be present. I have placed chasms, or as I'm using them as canyons because of limited map design. I've placed some mesas along the southern island of our creche. It is going to be an area called the Steppes, or Steeps, S-T-E-P-P-E-S, I believe. It's going to be a massive area of just rising and falling mesas that dominate the landscape. And there will eventually be something else here, but this is going to be a multiple-part series. I don't expect to finish this in the night. I may just cover the map and start explaining some of the things and how I do this. So, there's also plans to add the markers for the only on a technicality, but the largest settlement in our creche. I will go ahead and do that tonight, as well as name it. So we're going to use not a big fan of either of these, but it's a placeholder more or less. Okay, so this is going to represent my major city. It'll be its own unique place once I've written all for it. Now, I know some of this looks barren, and that's because I haven't gotten to the point of putting things there yet. This continent is obviously supposed to be limited in rivers as well as other things because, well, it's a wasteland. There's not meant to be much water. It's meant to be a resource that's fought over in this place. So it creates tension, natural tension for the setting. I'm sorry, I'm looking off to the side. I have all my stuff on my second monitor over here. But to add a bit more flavor to the region first, I'm going to include a small-ish, bump up the size just a little bit to 70, I think. Yeah, 70. Small-ish mountain range here in, as you can see, that's a little overlapping into the ocean. Kind of a pain sometimes, but small little mountain range here that will continue briefly onto the other side before stopping altogether in a much smaller cluster than on this side. And it will also continue briefly here. Now, the reason for that it continues across 3 portions of the continent, is that this was once one mountain range when this piece of the land fit right in here. Actually, if I'm going to do that, I need to delete those there. That's why we map stuff out, because always learning. So if this goes here, that means these mountains would go there. Of course, I'm going to have to move that last one, as it is sticking into the ocean again. And there we go. So there is another major natural feature of the land. The mountain range next to the Great Chasm. It's just a placeholder name. Do not worry, it will have a more official name before too long. I have named this area, so I will go ahead and display what that is going to be. As soon as I find a font that I feel fits post-apocalypse, which none of these do, but Let's do Ancient Antigua. Put that there. We have to dumb down the size because I will put a title on this map eventually, but regional text needs to be size 17. So the black area is called the Obsidian Dunes. Now, why is this? Because the sand here in the Obsidian Dunes has been scorched and ruined by an event that occurred just south of this volcano, in what is now called the Obsidian Heart, by the people who have ventured there at least. Quite a dangerous area. The sand here is made of obsidian and tends to slice skin, boots, cloth, and during sandstorms it is lethal. Very rare people visit this place, the Obsidian Dunes. It is easily the most dangerous place, as well as it has a massive active volcano in the center, which did appear when the event that ruined our creche happened. Now I will do one more. I'm going to do another region, and then as well as some small other things. So this is called the Steeps. Sorry about hitting my mic. The Steps. Keep the same font, and since it's a regional thing, we'll leave the text the size it is. So this is the Steeps. This is a massive plain of mesas and falling and rising valleys, also supposedly littered with gold and riches, if anyone's brave enough to journey there, as it has some dangers there, being it is rich in gold. I'm sure the more astute of you who know some D&D or just common mythology lore can figure out exactly what kind of dangers would be in a place with lots of gold. So, and then I will do one more big place for this continent. Sorry, mine keeps slipping. So, on top of the Steeps and the Obsidian Obsidian Dunes, we're going to do the first of the nests. And then maybe asking, nest for what? That is a great question. So, this is going to be called the Sinking Fields, or the Sinking Glowlands. Yes. No. I don't have all this planned out. It's just me talking as I go. But we're going to lean into sinking. Perhaps sinking sands. No. The sunken pits. No. Sunken Hive. If I can spell. Still can't spell, but you know what? Sunken Hive. Okay, now you may be asking, why is this region called the Sunken Hive? Well, because this right here, I will actually spin this to show that it's the whole region and not just the whole. This is the first of the nests for the Desert Hive, a group of once humanoids turned insectoid-like monsters by a minor deity called Kukrik. Kukrik. That's technically the proper pronunciation. They worshipped him, and he in return turned them into horrible desert-dwelling monsters. Now, back to the document. I know I worked a lot on the map, but I will also go ahead and at least get the title page done. So I've always been a big fan of Verdana for title. Bold, like my deep red title. Our Crash, the Lost Desert. Okay. Then shift this back down to 12. Keep Verdana back to black and bold. So to start, we'll actually turn back on the bold. Put our intro. Why an intro? Well, you want to make sure when you're looking back on your notes, you have an understanding of what you're going into. So this will give me a brief overlay of what I've written so far. So, in the center, a desert wasteland. That's one word. That was once a glorious and powerful society. Our crash has been the epicenter of an event. No. Our crash has been ruined by an event known as the Withering Blaze. To the far south, the lands scorched and unharvestable. The people of our crash are either forced to live as nomads, worship evil and divine entities, or relearn, or correction, not relearn, or learn methods to live a sustainable life in a land that wishes to see them destroyed. Now, I know that's kind of generalizing, but it's just the intro. You can change this all you want, fix up little things like this. This is just your intro, so you know what you're looking into. But I do feel like that is a good place to end this video. Thank you for watching, those of you who are. This is the second video. Hopefully this won't be the last video on this series. This is the world building series. This is world building episode 1. And I thank you for coming to the video. And if you are just stumbling across, drop a like, subscribe, and share it if you do enjoy this content. Thank you for tuning in, and I will be back next Friday with World Building episode 2.